have a quick security briefing from the hotel team at Abuja Continental. And after that, we would officially kick off today's event. So once again, welcome. Please, if we have those who are still outside, can we please usher them in to get seated because we're about to get this event started. Once again, thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to Abuja Continental Hotel. My name is Saleh Mohammed. I'm the Hotel Safety Manager. For your safety and security, we deem it necessary to tell you the protocols as regards the use of this hall, so that from beginning till the end of the program, we will not record any incident. However, before I go further, if there's a need for you to use the convenience, very easy to locate. You can just pass through this particular door, but if you are using that door there, you need to turn to the right. As you turn to the right, you see a scanning machine. Behind the scanning machine, you see two conveniences. The one to the left-hand side is for the female, while the one to the right-hand side is for the male. Aside that, today is not scheduled for a fire drill. Therefore, should there be a steady ringing of fire alarm bell for 5 to 10 seconds or beyond that, that suggests that something might have gone wrong somewhere or it's a false alarm. However, whatsoever the reason may be, please do not panic, be calm, because we have emergency response team members on standby to do the needful till something go contrary to our expectation. Then, if evacuation becomes necessary, we have two assembly points. One, you can pass through any of these main entrance door, go straight down to the other scanning machine at the main entrance. You see 4 exit doors there. You pass through any. As soon as you pass through, turn to the left, you see the muster point where you are expected to assemble based on your group, as others are having their event within the Ladi Kwali Hall. If assembling there will not be possible for whatsoever reason, we have alternative assembly point. You can get there by passing through these 4 exit doors to my left-hand side. As soon as you pass through, turn to the left, you see directional signages that will take you to the alternative assembly point. Then, on the security aspect, this is a public place, though it's a controlled environment. Therefore, important that your personal valuable belongings, more especially a mobile phone, should not be left unattended. If you have a course to leave where you are seated, maybe going to the convenience, tea break, or lunch, please take note of that. It's very, very important. As we all know, it's not just peculiar to this place, it's a global best practice, so that we will not have a cause to complain of either loss, damage, or misplacement of any item. Just like other organizations, Abuja Continental Hotel will not be liable for any, so let us be guided. Then, in case of medical emergency, we have a certified first aiders available to do the needful, and whatsoever beyond our control will be referred to a hospital just a 5-minute drive away from the hotel to take further assistance on your issue. Then any other emergency that's not medical issue, you can just dial extension 8111 from our desk phones, or better still, talk to our staff, and will be available within 3 to 5 minutes to do the needful. So without wasting your time, on behalf of the management, I wish you a successful program. Thank you so much.
Please, a round of applause for our safety manager. Thank you. Good morning, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, esteemed partners, leaders, colleagues. Welcome to the 2025 Sahel Food Systems Changemakers Conference. Please, can you put your hands together? So this is an annual gathering driven by Sahel Consulting's mission to transform Nigeria's agricultural and nutritional landscape. This year, we've gathered under a very important and timely theme. If you look to the middle there, we have the theme, Designing for Legacy, Building Resilient and Impact driven food systems. Now, this is not just another conference. One thing I believe this conference is about is a catalytic platform about Africa's future food system. So today in the room, we have partners, we have stakeholders, we have farmers, we have leaders, we have private sector and development partners. And we're all here with one question. And that question is, how do we build food systems that don't just feed us for today, but how do we build food systems that would secure our tomorrow? So these are the things we'll be looking at under the theme, Designing for Legacy. So one more time, I want to officially welcome you to this event. My name is Mac-Ann, and I'll be serving as your Master of Ceremonies, and it will be my delight to guide you through today's conversation, helping keep the time, and also helping you have a great day today. Please, you can put your hands together. Thank you. So what should we expect from today's conference? It's a full-day conference, but we are looking at by midday we should be done. But today we're going to have thought-provoking keynote session from industry leaders and ministers shaping policies and practice. What else should you expect from today's event? We're going to have executive reflections on how we can move beyond project cycles and build lasting food system. What else should you expect? Expect a powerful change maker spotlight. And of course, we're going to have interactive action roundtable where we would all be co-creating solutions for the Nigerian food system. And another interesting highlight about today's event is that we have exhibition booths that are featuring female, women-led agripreneurs and business owners. So it will be great that from time to time during the conference, you can step out, visit the exhibition booths, support our women-led businesses, and also patronize them. So once again, you are welcome. Please, you can put your hands together. So we deeply appreciate your presence, and I would quickly make a few introductions and to recognize our guests who are here. So this morning, what we'll do is I'll be recognizing our guests and dignitaries as they come in. So this morning, we're privileged to have in our midst the CEO of One Campaign and also the co-founder of Sahel Consulting. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking of no other person than Dr. Ndidi Wuneli. Please a round of applause for her. Okay, we also have the co-founder, the board chair, Sahel Consulting, with us this morning. Please put your hands together as we recognize the presence of Mr. Meswo Wuneli. In our midst this morning, we have the head of section Green and Digital Economy, the EU delegation to Nigeria and ECOWAS, Ms. Inga Stefanovic. Please can we put our hands together for her? Okay, we also have this morning the country director of Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, Ms. Dr. Michael Ojo. We're privileged this morning to also have in our midst the country director, HEFA International. Please put your hands together for Dr. Lekon Tobe. We also have this morning the deputy country director for the German Development Corporation, Dr. Oladoyin Olawaye. Please can we put our hands together for her? Thank you. She's representing the country director today. So one more time, you're welcome. So we want to recognize and welcome every participant every stakeholder, every development partner funder who is coming from different parts of Nigeria to this year's conference. Please, I'm talking about you sitting here. A round of applause for yourself this morning. So I would keep making the introductions as we progress in today's event. But to officially open today's event, I want to make welcome a dynamic leader, a passionate agriculturalist, someone who is passionate about food system transformation and also youth development for the welcome address. I'm talking about no other person than the managing partner for Sahel Consulting, Mr. Temitope Adegoroye. Please can we put our hands together for him as he comes up on stage? So I was just informed that Mr. Temi stepped out. So we'll just give a few minutes to have him in for the official welcome address. But while we're waiting for him to come in, this is the annual gathering for Sahel Food System Changemakers Conference. So I'd like to do like a brief roll call. How many of us have attended this conference for 7 consecutive times? If you've been here for 7 consecutive times for this conference, can I see you show with a raise of hand? Oh, we have, please can we put our hands together? 7 consecutive times is no small feat. Okay, so can we have those who have been here for 6 consecutive times? 6, do we have 6? 6-time participants, okay. 5-time participants. Okay, I see one hand there. Please can we put our hands together for him? So 4-time participants at this conference. Can you show it? Okay, I see more hands. Please put your hands together for them. 3-time participant. This is your 3rd time attending this. I see more hands. Please put your hands together for them. So can we see 2-time attendee for this conference? Okay, the hands are getting bigger. Please put your hands together for them. And the 1st-time attendee for this conference, can I see you raise your hand? Amazing. Please put your hands together for them. This is impressive growth. That means you've been coming. And the beautiful thing is, those of you coming here for the first time, we look forward to seeing you next year. And by next year, you shouldn't come alone. Make sure you're inviting another agripreneur so collectively we can keep transforming the Nigerian food system. One more time, a round of applause to all our distinguished guests who have honored our invitation this morning. Okay, so Mr. Temitope Adegoroye is here. I hope you don't get tired of putting your hands together. Okay, please can we make welcome Mr. Temitope Adegoroye. He is the managing partner, Sahel Consulting. We can do better with a round of applause. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I want to feel the energy. Supposed to be establishing the protocols, but I will do so. I know some of our dignitaries and honorable ministers are still on the way. But let me establish once and for all as they come in when they arrive. The Honorable Minister, Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, the Honorable Minister, Federal Ministry of Livestock Development, Honorable Idi Mukhtar Maya, the Honorable Minister of State, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Haliu Sabi Abdullahi, a Senior Special Assistant to the President on Agribusiness and Productivity Enhancement, Dr. Kingsley Uzoma, the Chairman and Co-Founder of Sahel Consulting, Mr. Mezo Emuneli, and all of our esteemed board members present in the room, our Co-Founder and the current CEO of the One Campaign, Mrs. Ndidi Wuneli, the Deputy Country Director, KIZ, the German Development Corporation, Ms. Oladoyin Alawaye, the head of section Green Economy, EU delegation to Nigeria and ECOWAS, Ms. Inga Stefanovic. Thank you so much for being here. Our valued partners and sponsors of this event, including the German Development Corporation, via the EU support to agricultural value chain facility. Thank you very much for the support and partnership. The country director of Mastercard Foundation, ably represented by Ms. Wura Tunde Anjus, and a host of other team members. Thank you so much for being here. Country Director Care, Dr. Husseini Abdu. Thank you so much, sir. The Country Director Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, Dr. Michael Ojo. Country Director IFA International, Dr. Lekon Tobe. The Executive Secretary, National Agricultural Development Fund, Mr. Mohammed Abu Ibrahim. Thank you so much for your partnership and sponsorship. Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, and fellow changemakers. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Sahel Food Systems Changemakers Conference 2025. Today, this room brings together some of the brightest minds and most committed hearts shaping Africa's food future. We gather not just to exchange ideas, because we understand that impact that lasts must be designed, not just delivered. Over the years, we have seen remarkable development efforts across our continent, and in particularly Nigeria, especially in agriculture and nutrition. We've witnessed projects that have delivered results, touched lives, and shaped hope. But we've also seen too many of these efforts fade once the funding ends. And that reality forces us to ask a very difficult question. What truly remains when the funding ends? True impact is not measured by how much we spend, but by what endures, by the systems, by the people, and the institutions that remain standing long after the spotlight fades. And so, the theme of this year's conference, Designing for Legacy, Building Resilient and Impact-Driven Food Systems, is not just timely, it's very urgent, super urgent. I know we have a very fantastic set of speakers today who will do justice to this topic, but while brainstorming on this theme at Sahel Consulting, various thoughts and questions came to mind. As an organization with many years of experience designing ecosystem solutions and implementing impactful programs, designing for legacy means asking the hard questions up front. For example, will this initiative still matter when the funding phase ends? Will communities, institutions, and markets continue to drive impact long after the reports are written? Are we building systems that can adapt, endure, and outlive all of us? Too often, sustainability is treated as an exit strategy. At Sahel Consulting, we have learned that sustainability cannot be an afterthought. It must be the starting point, the lens through which we design every program, every partnership, and every policy. Designing for legacy means embedding sustainability right from the start, creating programs that are market-aligned, that are institutionally anchored, and that are community-driven. It is about building systems that belong to the people. Designing for legacy requires a shift in mindset. When we begin with legacy in mind, we shift from short-term fixes to long-term transformation. We move from dependency to ownership, and from completing projects to institutionalizing and sustaining outcomes. It challenges us to see communities not as passive beneficiaries, but as active co-creators of change. At Sahel Consulting, we have witnessed this firsthand through many of our works. Our work in dairy, in seed systems, in horticulture, and across many other value chains. Through our dairy work, for example, we've reached over 63,000 farmers, most of whom now form part of a resilient ecosystem, trading millions of liters of milk annually. In the seed systems, we have enabled the release of new crop varieties, supported thousands of growers in achieving record yields, and strengthened institutional seed platforms. These are not just numbers. They are stories of ownership, resilience, and legacy. And through our horticulture and climate resilience initiatives, we're building market-driven solutions that empower smallholder farmers, promote regenerative approaches, and unlock opportunities for women and youth to thrive. But we know there is still so much more to do. Many systemic issues persist. And that's why we're here today to learn, to challenge, and to co-create. So as we begin this conference, I invite us to engage with open minds and authentic reflections. Let us be bold enough to question our current models. Let us be honest about what has worked and what has not worked. And let us be courageous enough to design new systems that are resilient, inclusive, and built to last. Because at the end of the day, the real question is not how much impact we created today, but what will remain tomorrow when we're no longer in the scene. When the funding and spotlight fades or ends, and they always do, what should remain are strong systems, capable people, and lasting impact. Legacy is not built by one organization or one funder. It is built by all of us, policymakers, funders, entrepreneurs, ecosystem enablers, researchers, united by a shared commitment to do more than just deliver change, but create lasting impact. So, I thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this movement, because this has become a movement. Thank you for being part of this platform. And welcome to Sahel Food Systems Changemakers 2025. I thank you all.
Distinguished guests, I believe we can make that round of applause more resounding for the managing partner, Sahel Consulting. Thank you very much. He asked a very important question. When, as we keep talking, we would keep making remarks around the theme. And he said, will this initiative still matter after the funding cycle has elapsed? And also, how do we build systems that are resilient and that are built to last? So these are very important questions we would keep asking. And one thing we need to understand is that designing for legacy is just one step at a time, but we've taken that first step to convene today. So while Mr. Temitope was speaking, I'll just quickly recognize some other dignitaries who walked in. We have in our midst this morning the Country Director, CARE International, Dr. Husseini Abdul. Please can we put our hands together for him? Thank you. We also have the Country Director for Christian Aid, Mr. Temitope Fashola. Please can we put our hands together for him? Thank you very much. So we're going to have, the next segment will be a strategic reflection on the roles of Sahel Consulting and partners in shaping agricultural transformation. And to take that session, I'm talking about the chairman's address. Please, let's put our hands together as we make welcome the board chair, Sahel Consulting, Mr. Mezwo Muneli. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. As board chair of Sahel Consulting, I'm extremely proud and inspired by the Sahel Consulting team. In case you haven't noticed, we have phenomenal individuals who are leading the organization. Temi Adegoroye, Chinedu Abara, Aisha Edeja, and we have over 100 team members of Sahel Consulting African Food Change Makers who work out of 5 locations in Nigeria. So, and an incredible team that's very proud of the work that they do. There are also a number of other directors here that we work very closely with that I want to make sure I thank. Binta Max Vinijay, who's one of our directors, so thank you for the support that you've given to us on the board. And also the chair of African Food Change Makers, Oyi Imbeje, forgive me for your last name, but Oyi, who is the chair of African Food Change Makers, thank you for your support of the work that you're doing. And you know, as we do work in the ecosystem, it's important that we partner with different organizations and the government as well to implement, because without the government to enable policies that work, we can't do what we do. And there have been a number of different individuals that have been supportive over the years. The Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Aliyu Abdullahi, has been very supportive. The Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Bagudu, has been supportive over many years as we've organized the conference, as well as the Honorable Minister of Livestock Development. So that support has been very key and instrumental for the work. Now, why do we do the work that we do at Sahel Consulting? And the theme here speaks to that, the importance of building resilience in the food ecosystem. We need to feed ourselves. Over 500 million people will be added to the Africa's population over the next 10 years. And these individuals need to be fed. And we're either going to do it with homegrown food or with imports. And in my mind, we need to figure out how do we do it homegrown, boosting yields, boosting efficiencies, enabling farmers to grow more, to be more effective. That work is extremely critical. We also need homegrown solutions. So not solutions that we take from other countries and then copy paste, but how do we leverage the talent that that is in this room that we have domestically to bring those solutions to solve real problems that we have and to address them. And then we also need to unlock the economic potential of our rural areas. We have half our population in rural areas. These are our parents, our brothers, sisters, cousins, many of us. How do we unlock this economic potential? Because if we don't unlock this economic potential, we will not be running at full steam within the country. And we can't do this alone. And Sahel Consulting is very reliant on many partners. And partners in this room that we're very thankful and grateful for all your support. And the EU has been very supportive, so thank you very much for your work over the years. Care International, thank you. Christian Aid, Michael Ojo with GAIN, GIZ, and especially I want to also single out MasterCard Foundation and the Gates Foundation, who over multiple years have been very supportive. And this ecosystem is really critical to make sure that we can achieve the change we all want in this country to address food security issues that impact all of us. So I'd like to welcome you. Thank you very much. And also to mention, our co-founder, president of One Campaign, is here in Ndidi Wuneli. And this is actually the first time both of us are together at the same Sahel Consulting Conference. So I'd like to welcome her as well. Ndidi, welcome. So we're going to kick off. And, and my apologies, also sitting in front, His Excellency Peter Obi. Thank you very much for attending and for the work you do. Really appreciate you. Thank you very much. So I'd like to hand over and welcome, and we kick off the events for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Wu. One more time, please can we put our hands together for the board chair Sahel Consulting for that excellent remark. You know, a quote comes to my mind while he was speaking and recognizing the partners. You know, alone, there is little or nothing we can do, but together, there's a lot we can achieve. And to design for legacy, it's not one thing, it's not something one organization can do. But together, when we join our hands together, put together our resources, put together our ideas and commitment, there's a lot we can achieve. So we're excited to have you all today. And one more time, please, a round of applause for the board chair. He already mentioned that, but I would also like to recognize the presence of a distinguished leader, someone who is committed to national development. While he was speaking, we had the former governor of Anambra State and the presidential aspirant for the Labour Party walk in. I'm talking about no other person than Mr. Peter Obi-Con. Please come put our hands together for him. Thank you very much. We're excited to have you. So the conference is already kicking off, and we're going to quickly have the keynote address. And the speaker for the keynote address is someone that every time you hear her name, you think about innovation, you think about integrity, you think about changing narrative. Ladies and gentlemen, she is a familiar face. She's someone who is constantly pushing for the transformation of the African food system, and also to see how we put African food on the global map. I'm talking about the current president of One Campaign, the co-founder, Sahel Consulting, the founder of African Food Change Makers, and co-founder Ace Food. Ladies and gentlemen, just recently, she had an additional decoration added on her. She became a doctor of, so it's a lot. Please can we put our hands together for Dr. Ndidi Nwuneli. We can make it louder. We can make it bigger. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor and privilege to be here. Our excellencies, our distinguished partners, our friends, entrepreneurs in the room, public sector officials, NGO executives. It's truly an honor. I am so happy to be back in Abuja. I miss Nigeria. And unfortunately, I haven't actually been back in Abuja for over a year. But honestly, Sahel Consulting is near and dear to my heart. I am so proud of Temi and the team. Can we give them a round of applause? Our fantastic managing partner, Temi Adegoroye, and to our chairman, Mr. Mezi Muneli, thank you for carrying the vision forward and for your passion and commitment. Our board members, Binta, Oge, Onyi, thank you for all you do, and those who are listening online. I've been asked to speak about legacy, and as you know, this is a passion of mine. And when I think about legacy in the Nigerian context, I'm often really concerned because many times we forget what legacy means. But I'll start with a few stories. In 2008, I was at the World Food Prize meeting in Oslo. At that time, I did not consider myself an agripreneur. I was the founder of Leap Africa, and I was doing a lot of work to change the narrative for young people and inspire them to be change makers. And a man got on the stage. His name was Norman Borlaug. How many of you have heard of Norman Borlaug? Raise your hand if you've heard of him. He's considered the father of the Green Revolution. He was in his 90s, and that was his last speech. And he looked to us in the audience, and he actually started crying. And he said, I've tried my best to make us sure we can feed ourselves and feed the world. Now it's your turn to take the mantle of leadership. And I thought he was talking to me. Everybody in that audience thought he was talking to them. That day, Akinwumi Adesina was being honored in Oslo. And I thought to myself, this is a Nobel Prize winner. He's worked to combat the wheat-resistant disease. And through his work, Mexico, India, and many other countries were able to triple and quadruple their yields. And he's passing the baton on to me. I said, that is legacy. Who else can we think about today who has left a legacy? We just lost the great Nigerian, Christopher Kolade. How many of you have heard of Christopher Colade, Ambassador Dr. Christopher Colade? He has left a legacy, not only in terms of how he lived his life, but how he inspired all of us. I'll never forget the story Christopher Colade told, where he said, I grew up learning the song, Jesus Loves Me, This I Know. And one day I asked God, why did you make me Nigerian if you love me so much? How many of you have asked God that question? He said, I asked God, you could have made me Swiss, you could have made me German, you could have made me, what other country do we have represented here? On the rankings of the best place to be born, we usually have Nigeria as one of the lowest, very sadly, right? And he said, God said to him, I made you Nigerian for such a time as this. I need you to be a light in this nation. And that's what legacy is about. And he was a light, right? I also think about another great Nigerian who died this year, Dr. Kanayo Wanze. How many of you know Dr. Kanayo Wanze? The first Nigerian to be the president of IFAD, right? The first Nigerian to be the director of the Africa Rice Center. I first met Dr. Kanayo Wanze at the World Economic Forum. When he was on stage, he made me proud. Proud to work in agriculture, proud to be in food systems, and proud to represent the best of us. And he left a great legacy. We also remember Wangari Maathai. Wangari Maathai was the first African woman to get a Nobel Prize for her work planting trees. It might sound very simple, planting trees, but she understood the climate crisis before many of us did. She left a great legacy, and I can go on and on and on. I think of legacy as how you're remembered for the work you did, what people say about you when you're no longer here, what inspiration you leave behind. And that's why legacy is so important to me. I think of Governor Peter Obi and the legacy he left in Anambra State. I happen to be from Anambra State, and I have to tell you that Governor Obi was one of the best governors in my lifetime, if not the best, from Anambra State. The legacy he left in the education sector in Anambra State is so unmatched. And I know firsthand because we have a small family foundation, and I happen to be from Oka. And I remember calling one day saying, oh, we pay some of the school fees of the teachers in my husband's village. I want to pay school fees of the teachers in Anambra, in Oka, and supplement their school fees. By the time I called schools in Anambra and found out how much teachers were making, I said, you don't need my help. Please, let's go somewhere else. Because they were making livable wages. They were comfortable. Even the entry-level teachers, and that was a legacy in education. I'm not saying that just because it's here. I say that everywhere. And that is the importance of legacy. So legacy is enduring impact. It's influence. It's what a leader leaves behind. And it applies to all of us. Nigerians in the public sector, what legacy are you leaving? Nigerians in the private sector, what legacy are you leaving? Nigerians in development, what legacy are you leaving? Legacy means that you have values and integrity. And that when you have a role, you're not thinking about what you're collecting in that role. You're not thinking about the title you have. You're thinking about how you're going to make that role so impactful that when you leave that role, you'll be remembered forever because you moved it forward. Some people are remembered for wickedness. Some people are remembered because they destroyed institutions. Some people are remembered because they destroyed countries. But none of us in this room should be remembered for that. We should be remembered for the good work that we did to move society forward. Now, what does this mean in the context of food systems? Because food systems are critical. The chairman just spoke about the crisis that we have in our country. We know that people are down to 010 in many parts of Nigeria. For those who don't know what 010 means, especially our international friends, it means I skip breakfast, I have lunch, and I skip dinner. Not by choice, not because I'm trying to lose weight, but because I cannot afford a meal. And when I have a meal, it's often not a nutritious meal. Because if my life expectancy is, 54 in Nigeria? I just saw the data. I said we used to be 57, now we're down to 54. That shook me. And you can imagine now, as a CEO of a global organization, where they put Nigeria against other countries. And our indicators in the food ecosystem mirror indicators in countries like Sudan, Somalia, when this country can feed like Africa and the world. So what is holding us back from leaving a legacy in food systems? As I reflect on our journey over the last 15 years, I often ask myself, what have we achieved as an ecosystem? I want to ask you the same. What have we achieved? I see people who have given their best years to fighting for impacts in the food ecosystem. And I say we have not done enough. Our work is not done. Tell your neighbor your work is not done. Say it louder. Your work is not done. It's not a time to sleep. This is not a time to fold our hands. How can our children go to bed hungry in a land as blessed as Nigeria, with excellent weather, soils that, if nourished, can deliver excellent yields, with some of the best researchers and scientists in the world, not only in IITA, but in all our NARIs across Nigeria, with the brilliant minds in this room? How can our children go to bed hungry? Ask your neighbor, how can your child go to bed hungry? Because every Nigerian child is your child. Every Nigerian child is your child. And so when I think about what it will take to leave a legacy of impact in the food ecosystem, there are 4 things I would like to suggest. The first is that we have to have a vision that is very possible in our lifetime. I had the great honor of chairing the presidential panel when we created these Vision 2030, midterm vision for Nigeria 2035, and we went across Nigeria trying to ask people, what is the vision? And the vision we laid out is that every Nigerian child deserves a healthy meal, the opportunity to live a full and meaningful life and achieve their highest potential. Now, nutritious meal is important, and I'm thankful that GAIN is well represented here by Michael Ojo. Nutrition is important. Today, that vision is not being realized. Every Nigerian child does not have access to a nutritious meal. And for a meal to be available, accessible, affordable, it needs to be affordable, right? So right now, an egg, how much is an egg? Who can tell me the price? One egg. 300 naira. 450. I remember when egg was 50 naira. We used to say, last year, 2 years ago, so how can we have nutritious meals if a child cannot get an egg a day or a glass of milk a day? What does it take to have the vision that every Nigerian child should have access to affordable, available, accessible, nutritious food? That vision is important, and we have to share that vision. As an ecosystem, as a sector, we have to share that vision. We have to speak with one voice about that vision. Why is that vision important? Because it keeps the child at the center of our vision. Because when I was working with many of the stakeholders, you say, no, beekeeping should be number 1. Somebody else will say, no, cassava should be number 1. Another person says, the soybean value chain deserves our support. Do we fight in the ecosystem about which value chain should be elevated? Yes. Do we fight about how resources should be allocated? Absolutely. And what we forget is that who are we designing the ecosystem for? The Nigerian child. So if we're designing for the Nigerian child, beekeeping is not number 1. Sorry. Is any beekeeper here? I apologize. Or somebody will tell me, oh, it should be ruminants. Small ruminants should be number 1. Oh, no, it's dairy. Oh, no. Put the child at the center and the affordability, availability, and accessibility of nutritious food. That vision should be shared by all. The second component of leaving a legacy is to have very clear milestones about how we're going to achieve that legacy. And in developing those milestones, everybody has a role to play. Private sector, public sector, civil society, entrepreneurs. What is the role of the public sector in ag? This is controversial. I told my team, are you sure you want me to speak? What's the role of the public sector? Create an enabling environment with the right policies for private sectors to thrive. The public sector should not be delivering services in the agriculture sector. Please don't throw stones at me, all the public sector officials. We need to make sure we understand our role. When I hear that our public sector is buying tractors, with all due respect, we have no business buying tractors. Why? Because we cannot maintain the tractors. We cannot fuel the tractors. When the tractors break down, we cannot service them. So let us instead invest in the tractors associations that exist. Partner with financial institutions to give concessional financing and service agreements so that our farmers have access to tractors. Do you understand the difference? There are ways we facilitate and mobilize and support, but we have no business becoming a tractor operating organization as the public sector. I'm using tractors as an example. So those clear milestones around our clear vision allows us to hold each other accountable and to tell each other, stay in your lane. Tell your neighbor, stay in your lane. We need to stay in our lane. Public sector, do your work. Private sector, ensure that you innovate and provide affordable, accessible food sourced locally. Can I emphasize sourced locally? Why is it important to source locally? Because if you source locally, you help our farmers. You help the distributors in the value chain. And you deliver for your people. And the shorter the value chain, the healthier the food. At Ace Foods, a company I am proud to have co-founded with Bezumune, we source from 10,000 farmers. We process for the local market. And that is one company I'm most proud of. I've started many organizations. People tell me, which one are you most proud of? I say Ace Foods. I love Sahel Consulting. But why am I most proud of Ace Foods? Because if you go to our factory, 90% of our factory are women, first-time job seekers. They get a healthy meal. They get health insurance. They're able to educate their children. That is called a legacy. Because if you can transform their life, you can transform the lives of so many other people. Their children get better health care, and so on and so forth. So please, number 2 is have clear milestones of achieving your legacy. Number 3 is commit to partnerships. Why are partnerships so critical? Nobody can do it alone. Our problems are wicked problems. They're deep-rooted problems. We call them wicked problems in the development sector. Those are deep, entrenched problems that we have not been able to solve. Why? Because people have diverse interests. And sometimes those interests collide with each other. What are some divergent interests? I want to pick on the dairy sector. Do we have people from the dairy sector here? I saw the MD of Saj Foods. I saw a few of our partners from Aldine. I thank you for your work. It is an important sector. But partnership is critical for the success of our dairy sector. We like to say that Nigeria has one of the largest cattle herds in Africa, and yet we're one of the largest importers of dried powdered milk. Why have we not been able to crack this? Because of the issue of entrenched interests. The Ministry of Agriculture wants us to improve dairy production and output. The Ministry of Trade and Investment, Ministry of Finance, benefit from quotas and import tariffs, right? The more tariffs, the more quotas, the better for them. Nigerian consumers, what do we want? We want affordable milk that's available year-round. We like fresh milk. So you can see the different interests. Whose interests are we going to follow? We should put the Nigerian consumer at the front. And that means partnerships. It means leaving our egos and logos at the door. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And I've changed it to say we must go far and fast together. We don't have any time. And to do that, we have to leave our egos and logos at the door and work with integrity and excellence. And number 4, we have to be able to work ourselves out of our job. That's what legacy means. It means you've solved the problem so you can step off the podium. If you're still in your job 20 years later, you have failed. And this is directly applicable to our development partners. In my work at the One Campaign, I work across the world. And people have told me, Ndidi, the future you're designing for Africa, we don't see ourselves in it. Can you believe it? The future we want for our continent is that we're an equal player. They're saying, if Africa gets its act together, I'll lose my job. Please lose your job. Lose your job. Solve that problem and move on to the next problem. Right? So let us say we have solved this nutrition problem, we've solved this hunger problem. Let's take on mental health. Let's take on education. Let's take on other sectors. But let's not just keep the status quo because we want to keep our seats. Nobody should be keeping their seat. Move on to the higher seats. Move on to the next challenge. And that's number 4. You design. A quote that I love is by one former US president that says, the greatest legacy of a leader is that he leaves behind in others the conviction and the will to continue the work. Imagine if you step aside and other people continue the work. With Sahel Consulting, I haven't been to this conference in a couple of years. I stepped aside. Did they continue the work? Yes. Did they do it well? Absolutely. That gives me the greatest joy as a leader, right? And that's legacy. So as I round up, I want to challenge you on a few things. The first is that we have to commit to a vision that we share. The second is that we have to have milestones and hold ourselves accountable. The third is that we have to invest in partnerships. And the fourth is that we have to give up our seats and succeed by moving on to the next challenge. I'll end with a quote that I love from an African youth talking to an African president. He said, "I'm no longer asking God to grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I'm asking the Almighty to grant me the wisdom and courage to change the things I cannot accept. I cannot accept that 1 out of every 10 Nigerian child dies before they're 5. I cannot accept that many of our children go to bed hungry. I cannot accept that we're considered one of the worst places to be born. That is unacceptable. Nigeria is a great nation. We need to rise to the challenge. We need to build ecosystems. We need to solve problems together. And we need to change this in our lifetime. My vision is that together we will transform this ecosystem and be so proud of the legacies that we left together. God bless you, and thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, esteemed partners, please one more time, can we celebrate the CEO One campaign for that inspiring keynote session? Thank you very much. Please, can you say to the person sitting beside you, say, we must go fast and far together. Turn to the other person and say, we must go fast and far together. So that is what we need at this point in time. It's not just enough to go alone, but we can go fast and far together. And while Ndidi was speaking, a lot of inspiring nuggets she shared. You know, she talked about setting very clear milestones. She also talked about committing to partnership and also designing. And as she spoke, a quote by Peter Schroepel came to mind. And it says, legacy is not what we leave for people. It is what we leave in people. And that is what we should continue thinking about as we continue and we progress in today's conference. We're not just thinking about the next project to fund or to support, but how do we build impact across sector? How do we design with the future in mind? Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it is still the 2025 Sahel Food System Changemakers Conference with the theme, Designing for Legacy. Right now, we're going to have an executive reflection. And the executive reflection, we would have senior leaders who would share perspective on how partnership must evolve for lasting impact, sharing global and local lessons. So please, while I call them up on stage, I would want you to be generous with your round of applause. So the first executive who will be coming up on stage this morning is the Country Director for Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition. Distinguished guests, please put your hands together as we make welcome Dr. Michael Ojo. We can do better. Thank you. The next executive to come up on stage this morning is the Country Director, HEFA International. Please a round of applause for Dr. Lekan Tobe. I believe we can do better with the applause. Thank you. We also have the Deputy Director for the German Development Corporation, Dr. Oladoyin Olawaye. Please can we put our hands together for her? Okay, so the last but not the least executive who will be joining this executive reflection is the head of section Green Economy EU delegation to Nigeria and ECOWAS. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Dr. Inga Stefanovic. Please can we put our hands together for her? And to moderate this executive reflection session, we're going to bring up on stage our keynote speaker, Dr. Ndidi Muneli. Please can we put our hands together as he comes back on stage? We can make the round of applause bigger. Thank you. Okay, also joining this executive reflection session is Dr. Hussaini Abdul, the country director, CARE International. Please can we put our hands together for him? Make it bigger, make it louder. Thank you very much for your generosity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To our distinguished panel, thank you for your participation, your commitment, and your partnership with Sahel Consulting on this Changemakers Conference. So this is an executive reflection session, and we're going to be talking about partnerships and how they must evolve for lasting impact. And I would love for you to, as you introduce yourself and this topic, really reflect on what we must do to ensure global and local impact, how we must drive change and really move the needle in this sector. Given some of what I underscored in my speech, that we've kind of been stuck, one step forward, two steps back. What needs to change for lasting impact? And where have you seen successes that we must model from our work? So let me start with you, Michael Ojo, Country Director, GAIN. GAIN has been doing so much around nutritious food. You've done and invested a lot in shaping policy, driving innovation. What are your reflections on this topic?
Thank you very much. Indeed, it's really great to see you back in Abuja after such a long time. And thanks for inviting me to speak. How long do I have?
Few minutes, 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. So I think what I want to maybe talk about is not so much what we do, but maybe more why we do it. Because I think this really connects to the point that you were raising earlier. You've spoken about you've given us, this kind of visionary outlook on why this is important. And so I want to try and bring it down into how this shows in terms of the kind of work that we do. So again, it's focused on nutrition. And like you were saying, when we talk about nutrition, there are a number of dimensions. Access to nutritious food requires access, requires the food being affordable. It requires the food being desirable. And so what people consume, their diets, is what's most critical to whether they have a good nutritional status. And what we know is that virtually, well, diets, the key thing that determines what our diets are like is effectively what our food systems produce. And so this is why we focus or we work on food systems. And to make that work, there are a number of things that we do. One of them is ensuring that we have the right data. We need to know what's happening. We need to know where the gaps are. We need to know what needs to change for us to actually be able to have an impact on people's diets. And so data is really critical. And this is why we invest in data tools like the Food Systems Dashboard, which Sahel was also part of helping to develop for Nigeria. Data tools like the cost of a healthy diet, which tells you how easy it is to access healthy diets locally in the states where you live. And this is now owned and driven by the National Bureau of Statistics. The Food Systems Dashboard is now owned and housed by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. And other tools like the Food Systems Countdown Initiative. And these things are most effective when they are owned and they are driven by institutions that are there, already exist to make them work. And this is why we work with government at all tiers, national government. We work in 16 states. We work with LGAs to make all of this happen. And when you look at the data that you're getting from this process, it tells us many things. The data tells us that 40% of our children are stunted. It tells us, and I'm talking about government's own data now, that 4 out of 5 households are food insecure, go to bed hungry, that 139 Nigerians are suffering from, were living below the poverty line. It tells us that most of our women, a big proportion of our women suffer micronutrient deficiency. But it also tells us that Nigeria is the largest or near largest producer of many foods, many of our staples, cassava, yam, rice, cashews, and so on. But again, the data tells us that some of those produce, especially the fresh produce, are lost post-harvest, in some cases up to 40%. So using that data, we are able to think about what are the key things that need to change in the system to ensure that we are not losing the food we produce, and food that is available is affordable for people to consume. And this is why we work, again, like I said, with different levers of government to ensure that government is investing its own money, but also that government is creating the right environment for other people to invest to ensure that nutritious food gets to people.
Thank you, Dr. Ojo. You've laid a very good foundation for the data, the sense of urgency, and why we need partnerships, but you did not address what needs to change to address the wicked problems, because I know you've been at the forefront. So I'm going to ask, I'm going to move to you, Dr. Abdu Hussaini. Please take us to the core. What needs to change, and from a partnership perspective, where have we seen the transformation happen elsewhere? And what would you tell the audience we need to do differently in this context?
Thank you very much, Ndidi, and good to see you again after a very long while. Yes, Michael did set up the basis for these conversations, and like we say, you can't move the system without the right partnership. But this is what we often harp on, around partnership. But each time we discuss partnership, my feeling is like we don't really get it. The concept of partnership is not just relationship between individual organizations and institutions. It is more around what they do when they build that relationship. And one major thing that is missing in this space is that multi-sectoral partnership. Many times the kind of partnership we build are partnership amongst the same. So you are doing the same thing and you are working together to cover the space. It is not a bad idea. But food system is not simply about agriculture. It's not simply about nutrition. It's a complex web of structures and systems. And until we're able to bring these systems together, we wouldn't be able to make the kind of progress we want to see. So when you talk food system, take the government perspective, you are practically maybe talking about Ministry of Agriculture. But it goes beyond the Ministry of Agriculture. Ministry of Education is very key. What are we teaching in our school? What is the nature of the curriculum? What awareness are we creating in the school systems? Look, if you were in school in the early days of this country, one of the major courses that you are taught right from primary school has to do with agriculture and food production. But today, you know, when Nigerians talk, they say, oh, they've stopped teaching history. But nobody say we stop teaching food, nutrition, and agriculture in schools. So I think one major thing we need to build is multi-sectoral partnership across the different spaces, whether it's the public sector, like you mentioned, the civil society, or the private sector. And so bringing these three layers of our society together is very key, that we have to work together in achieving result. But it is not simply about bringing them, but we must bring also the diversity that defines that space as well. So you can't talk about food system without the market and the market system. So, but the market system is not simply around the banks. There are several layers within that space that we also need to connect with to build it. The public sector, it is not simply about the Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of Women Affairs. There are different institutions within the public sector that will need to come. In the civil society, it is not about those of us working on resilience, on agriculture, or nutrition, but even those who are working in spaces around public accountability, governance, and all that are very, very key in these conversations. So when we meet like this, it should be multi-sectoral, multi-space, multi-structure that connects to achieve one result. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I completely agree with you, sir. And you know, the sense that we often work in silos without an ecosystem lens as we design, as we implement, is key. And so thank you for raising that, and thank you for the good work you do at CARE. Let me come to one of the female leaders on the panel, and I'll come to Inga. You have a perspective as part of the EU delegation to Nigeria, and you've worked in other parts of the world. So from an outside-in perspective, what needs to change as we partner? And what's the role of development partners in really unlocking the opportunities in the sector, but also addressing some of these wicked problems?
Thank you very much for that question. And you may have to stop me because I could probably speak a lot and long to that question. Why we're here in Nigeria, why we are also in other countries as the European Union, at the core of it is partnership. So we are all about partnerships, and very much also over time about redefining these partnerships and shifting focus and learning from our past mistakes. So for example, when you look at agriculture, you will think of a donor like the European Union, basically working more from the smallholder farmers' resilience side, which is very important work, you know, handing out inputs, financial support. But this is, as much as it is critical and very important, this is not going to change the big picture. So this is one paradigm change that we have to start, and we've started looking at the agriculture as a sector with a great economic development potential, as a sector that can create businesses, agribusinesses, that can help them grow and that can create jobs. So this is what we are now about. In our work in Nigeria, and also learning from other places in the world, saying we have to partner not only with the government, we have to partner with businesses, with the private sector. And that comes also from another realization, the realization that, well, no donor money is going to solve all the problems. We know we are not quite on track with the SDGs, with the climate agenda. And well, as much as the partner countries that we work with have their fiscal constraints, we also have our fiscal constraints. So where to find the money, where to find the solutions? And now we say, well, the solutions are there, and very many of them in Nigeria. There are successful agripreneurs out there, and we don't need to pay, hand over, give. We just need to help, work with the government on aspects such as policy environment, but then also just give a little nudge, a little push, a little support by partnering with the private sector to leverage that expertise, those resources that exist there for productive, sort of future-looking solutions.
Thank you so much. Let's give her a round of applause. You know, I'm so glad, Inga, you raised this issue of the cuts, because many nonprofit organizations, many civil society organizations in Nigeria have been affected by the closing of USAID, have been affected by the cutbacks in many, many other sectors. And this is a time when we need innovation, we need deeper partnerships, but we also need to improve our efficiency and effectiveness of the funding we currently have. And so you raising that is very, very critical. And another reminder of the role of development partners as catalysts. Development partners cannot fill the gaps that have been created. They are just catalysts and innovators, but they also have their own country's interests and the regions they represent at heart. And so we must also work with them from that perspective. So thank you for those excellent remarks. My friend, Brian Kagaro likes to say, Father Christmas is not coming this year. Nobody is coming to plug the gaps. Nobody is calling to say, I have a little more money to give you. What can you spend it on? We do understand that it's a wake-up call for us and an opportunity for us to rise to the challenge. So thank you. Let's move on now to Oladoyin Olawaye of GIZ, Deputy Director. Given your insights and your work, can you share your perspective on partnerships and really what we must do differently going forward?
Very much, Didi. Thank you for the opportunity. But before I start, I would just like to bring greetings from the Country Director of GIZ Nigeria and ECOWAS, Dr. Marcus Wagner, who would have loved to be here today, but is unavoidably absent, and I'm deputizing it on his behalf. It's a really good question, and I like the reflection so far. I like the saying that Father Christmas would not come here this year. So what must we do to strengthen, to deepen partnership? For us, representing the German Development Corporation, implementing on behalf of Germany and the European Union, we have had reflections or lessons learned. As Inga highlighted, there have been solutions that we've encountered during project design and implementation. But we really, in looking back in hindsight, we understand that really we need to move, or partnerships that evolve for lasting impact have to move beyond project delivery and really looking at project indicators to more co-creating on policy, to more strengthening institutions, and also ensuring that these solutions are properly anchored in national systems. So what, from a very reflective perspective, needs to happen? What shifts do we see based on our experience? We have really good experiences. I could name quite a number, but for sake of time, I would say from our experience, we've seen that, of course, the theme for today is designing for legacy. So it's important in partnerships that we've seen that successes have been had where we've included partners from the get-go. So in the design process. So not from the when we're ending the project, etc. So we design projects with partners in mind. We design with our partners, not for our partners. Also, just broadly, what I think needs to shift, what we would see as shifting to be more effective in partnerships, and we also implement across the region. It's GIZ Nigeria and ECOWAS, is that we need to go from projects to systems. I highlighted on this, like strengthening institutions, but also looking at policy cohesion, also building accountability. We need to really go from funding is always a problem. Financing is always a problem. But I think we need to go from funding to financing. So looking for how we mobilize capital to really, as you said, be the catalyst in the system. So crowding in private investment in a way that we can use blended financing and other de-risking mechanisms. For example, we have a recently launched project, the EU-based TARED project, recently launched in September. We're actively working on mobilizing about €2 million to, through innovating financing models to really support and expand access to credit to agribusinesses and to MSMEs. We also think we should also really, in the design phase, we should move from inclusion to leadership. So where we have our inclusive strategies with the women, with the young people, with the youth, with the vulnerable communities, we need to move from them being just mere participants to really leading the transformation in food systems. I have other examples to share, but I would like to stop here.
Thank you so much. Excellent remarks. Please give her a round of applause. I love everything you've said. And just to underscore, designing with the end in mind, thinking about who's going to extend this beyond your donor engagement. I love that. And that is so key to success and legacy. How you involve the leaders. And I love how you said women, youth have to be involved from the get-go as leaders in the project design and this implementation. And then financing has to be transformed into sustainable financing where the project is able to extend on its own. So lots of great insights and thoughts there. And last but not least, I'm coming to Lekon Tobe, Country Director of Heifer International. Share your insights on this with very practical solutions for how we in this room can take it forward to leave a legacy.
Thank you. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Most of what, when you were sharing your keynote, most of what you said resonates with us, if and myself, because they surface some of the questions that we have constantly asked. You know, why development or investment in development is not generating the intended impacts at sustainable scale as we would desire it to be. And of course, we have tried to promote partnership, and we're still doing that, you know. And part of the problem that we have recognized as not allowing partnership to produce or generate the intended outcome is some of the things that Dr. Abdul mentioned earlier on, which is related to us not recognizing the complexities that exist between us and the interdependencies amongst us and the dynamism of the environment within which we work. And of course, on the surface, if we look like we're all partnering, you know, we're doing stuff together. But most times we leave the participants of our programs and projects out of from the design phase, you know. And I'm talking, for example, at HEFA about smallholder farmers, you know. And we often, you will see in literature the talks about sustainable locally led development. But what is the framework that we're using to actually actualize that? That is often missing, you know. We talk so much about partnership. What is the model that we're using, a sustainable model, to ensure that the partnership that we are talking about actually works for everyone and the values that are generated are distributed fairly and equitably across the board, you know? So those are the questions that we must ask ourselves. And of course, at our own higher level, you know, we seem to be doing well in recognition of the fact that we need to partner amongst ourselves. But what about those that we are set up to service? The people that we're set up to work for? You know, often their voices are lacking in the midst of what we do. And that is why you will see that after we're gone, nothing happens. Then we also talk about the front line, you know, talking about the practicals now. You know, at the country level, let me use it let me go to that. At the country level, we go to ourselves and talk about so many things that we could do together. But at the front line, our frontliners, our frontline managers, project managers, are they speaking to each other? Are they doing stuff together rather than competing? And what we see often, which are some of the things that we are trying to address, is that they see themselves as silos. They must report. But what is important is that, and that is something that we hold there at HEFA, that we're not afraid of being psychic. You know, we're not afraid of somebody taking the glory for the impact that is generated amongst ourselves, you know, and that is where we're going. We should be headed to, that we should not be afraid of being psychics, because that is the beginning of wisdom as it concerns partnership for food systems transformation. And somebody mentioned earlier on that food system, that is Abdul, it goes beyond just agriculture. It's everything. We've been talking about it in recent time now, food systems transformation. How active are we in ensuring that everyone that matters comes on board? You know, whether it is locally or globally, what voices are we bringing to ensure that the system that we're trying to build is resilient and is sustainable? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Give him a round of applause. Thank you, Lekan Toby. I think you've captured the summary of what has been discussed and really emphasized the power of collaboration, designing with the participants and the beneficiaries in mind, but also elevating the work beyond silos, creating ecosystem transformation. I have time for just one question from the audience. No time? Wow, okay. I wanted to at least have one person pose a question or a challenge to the participants. They've told me we do not have any time. So I'm going to wrap up now and just ask each of our panelists, our distinguished panelists, to just say one sentence or one charge you're leaving with the audience. If you want them to take one thing home, what would that one thing be? And I'm asking for just a sentence, your charge. What do you expect for us to leave a legacy? What can we do personally and through our organizations to cause transformation? Let's start with you, Lekan. One sentence.
Thank you, Ndidi. I will say that let's go beyond the rhetorics that we repeat every year at conferences and start to actually work towards doing something together. I think that's the beginning, including the voices of the private sector businesses, the government, and the people that we work for, you know, that we're set up to work for. And we all here facilitate the change that we're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Go beyond rhetoric, Lekan says. Let's hear from you, Hussaini. What is your charge?
My charge is, look, no matter the brilliance of the work you do, the impact you are making, Nigeria is too big for you as an individual organization, an individual sector, that those silos must be broken. And events like this should be opportunities for us to break that silo, that we can do better when we work together better. Thank you.
Break the silo, break the silo. Michael Ojo, what is your charge?
So for a nation that is 60% of the population under 25, we have to move away from engaging young people in food systems as peripheral beneficiaries of the programs that we run to being integral actors in changing the state of things in this country. Otherwise, we don't have a legacy.
Fantastic. Stop using youth as tokens. Design with them at the forefront and as leaders. Oladonyi?
Thank you. I would just really like to leave, like you said, one sentence, and I would say we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We should really work together. Let's deepen partnerships. Partnerships that create lasting impact are really grounded in mutual accountability, in shared vision, but also with those with some skin in the game. So I'd like to.
Thank you so much. Put your skin in the game. That is very important. Bring your money, your talent, your treasure, and your time. Inga, last word from you.
Okay, I panicked first when you asked that question, but then there's so much coming to me now. Maybe one thing I would say is that we should sow the seeds in the fertile ground, such as Nigerian, and just let them grow, because they will if we let them. But also, I want to add to that, and please just get me out of the job.
Fantastic. Sow the seeds, invest together. Please join me in giving this distinguished panel a round of applause. By joining this effort, they've demonstrated that they have some skin in the game. They've committed to working collaboratively, and they've also decided to lead by example. So thank you to our distinguished panelists. Thank you to our audience. Please give them another round of applause. Let's take a group pictures, guys, before we get up.
Distinguished guests, esteemed participants, one more time, please, can we put our hands together for all our executives who have shared their reflection this morning. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Michael Ojo, the Country Director, Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, the Country Director, CARE International, Dr. Husseini Abdul, the Country Director, HEFA International, Dr. Lekan Tobe, the Deputy Country Director for the German Development Corporation, Oladoyi, and also the Head of Section Green Economy EU Delegation to Nigeria and ECOWAS, Dr. Inga Stefanovic. One more time, please, can we put our hands together? And not forgetting our very own distinguished keynote speaker and moderator, Dr. Ndidi Nguneli. Can we make that better? Thank you. Earlier on, I introduced a very distinguished personality and a statesman in the country. He has come all the way to grace this occasion. And we just thought and said, we cannot let him go without coming up to just give a brief goodwill message around the theme for today's conference. Distinguished guests, please can we make welcome His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi, CON, for his goodwill message. We can make that applause bigger. Thank you very much.
Let me stand on all due and existing protocols. Mine is, like you can see, is message. So I want to start by thanking the Sahel Group and all the organizers of this event coming here to spend a few minutes listening to the chairman, keynote speaker, and the panelists. I must thank the panelists for that wonderful contribution. Mine is gratitude to all of you that are gathered and thinking of how best we can provide food in our country. I thank you very much. I've always said Nigeria have by all means, have no reason to be among the hungriest countries of the world. We have vast uncultivated land. We have youth that, if supported, can help to change the system. So all I can say is, please keep it up on everything, and we hope that by the next few years, we won't be among the hungriest of the world. I was just talking about food just yesterday with somebody, and I said, how can we tell anybody? I say it every day. We can make more money from agriculture than we make from oil. Any day, any time. With the vast uncultivated land in the north, we can feed ourselves. When I see people talking about the importation of rice and this, and I look at countries like Bangladesh, and I ask ourselves, Bangladesh is a tiny country of 148,600 square kilometers of land, and they produce 10 times the amount of rice, 50 to 60 million tons of milled rice. And two of our biggest states are size of Bangladesh. Niger at 76.3 thousand and Borno at 70.8. Put together at 147 something. That is the size of Bangladesh. And Bangladesh have a population of over 160 million. And these two states have less than 10% of that. So we have vast land for cultivation. You can go on and on. Look at what Ethiopia is doing with tea. And we have Taraba, 54,000 plus something square kilometers. In Mambila, where you can grow tea, coffee, everything. So all we need is the rice. And I believe that's what you're discussing here. And support our young people. Change that and we'll feed ourselves. Thank you for the opportunity. God bless all of you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi, for that very insightful and inspiring goodwill message. Indeed, the agriculture sector is blessed with enormous potential, and you and I have the capacity to start thinking of how to make change happen. How do we design for legacy and make sure that our projects and the impact we're putting together outlive us? Okay, how's it going so far? Are we having a good time? All right, has it been insightful? Please put your hands together for yourselves. You have been an amazing set of audience. You know, we've been talking all the while, and it just crossed my mind that I have not recognized some certain set of persons who are also with us here. Now, those people are not here physically, but they are joining us from different parts of Nigeria and even outside Nigeria. Distinguished guests, I'm talking about our online participants. Please, can we put our hands together for every participant who is joining this conference virtually? Can we make them feel loved? Can we make it bigger? Thank you very much. To all our online participants, we see you, we acknowledge you, we recognize you, and we say thank you for joining us at this year's conference. Right now, we would go to our next session, which is an expert presentation. And this presentation would showcase practical pathways for partnership. It will demonstrate how PPPs can equip farmers and agribusinesses to adapt climate variability, mitigate risk, and also foster long-term agriculture transformation. This expert presentation would be on forging lasting partnerships, scaling climate information services through public-private collaboration. And to take that session, please, can we make welcome Mr. Chinedu Agbara. He is a partner at Sahel Consulting. Please, can we put our hands together for Mr. Chinedu?
Good morning, all. Yeah, so I'm hoping that they get to put the slide. So basically, while I'm waiting for that, my presentation is just basically to convince you around legacy. One of the ever-present challenge is on climate risk. And here we have a work we are doing on climate resilience, building agricultural system resilience, which involves investment in the climate space. And we are trying to explain that in all your projects that you're doing, in all your investment that you're doing, if you don't consider the challenges of climate risk, then the issue of legacy will not be there. So, Bolaji, do we have the slides? Okay, so yes, this is the first slide. On this slide, what you can see is just a basic segmentation of the Nigerian risk, the climate risk profile for Nigeria. And this is no surprise to anybody. So we just, for easy understanding, we separated into 3 segments. At the top in the north, we can see the challenges that is being faced there, which is more of drought and then flooding. And also, if you look in the middle, we have erratic rainfall. So erratic rainfall in the middle, also flooding, and if you look at down south, we also have coastal flooding, and again, of course, erosions taking effect. Across all of them, what is very common is flooding. From the north to the south, across the country, if you look at the chart, all of the red colored places are areas that have been that are flood prone. And if you look very carefully, they are linked to the river system, River Niger, River Benue, that we have in the country. And of course, in 2014, 2022, we had a very difficult year. 2024 was also very similar in terms of challenges, in terms of number of losses of people displaced, over 1.3 million. In terms of farmland destroyed and lives lost. I know these numbers look lower, but these are the official numbers that were reported. But of course, we know those numbers are more. So what is really happening here? I think this slide shows a bit of what is going on at the macro level. So Nigeria lies at the region of the tropic belt. And on that belt is where you have the highest sun radiation and also heat. And what happens there is, as global warming, the greenhouse gases continue to increase, you have heating and trapping of hot air. And for every 1 degree increase in temperature, what you get is a 7% increase in the amount of the atmosphere to hold water. So that increase in the ability of the atmosphere to hold water is what leads to a lot of drought. And when the rainfall comes down, it's very heavy. So that basically we see across our West African neighbors from Guinea, Mali, Niger, they all fall under that belt. And very importantly, Cameroon also. And when they have a lot of, we are down on the downside of this river. So once all those heavy rainfall come from that side, it all flows into Nigeria. And you can see that's where we start to have issues. Of course, at the micro level, we also have some issues where we've not made a lot of investments on our irrigation system and all. But it's just basically to say that this is what is causing the flooding. So why climate risk? Like I started earlier, in all the investment we are seeing, there are lots of investment in trying to improve yields. But if you don't factor in climate change, then those yield levels are going to drop after all the investments you've made. And we have numbers there across the continent of what is happening. Investments in nutrition can easily be eaten up by climate change risk. That has to be factored in almost every project that you're implementing. But it's not always bad news about this climate change, like I explained. So what you see, we've seen a situation where if you can be able to predict the weather correctly, you could take advantage of this risk. I shared a story in Jigawa last year. The farmers in Jigawa were able to do 2 seasons in the rainy season. And that was because they got the right information as to the length of the first rainy season before the August break or the in-between droughts in August. So they planted short maturing sorghum, and then they were able to then replant again once the wet season restarted again after the August break, and they were able to harvest twice in the same wet season. But for you to get that information that you need, this is a value chain that we just segmented into. It's a standard that's been worked on by the industry. You have the data has to be generated on the issues of the climate, and those data has to then be turned to forecast, and those forecasts will be translated, because if you can make forecast of amount of rainfall, it's still not enough. You still need to know what are the advisories that goes with it, because rain is going to fall for the next 3 days means different things for different farmers, different crop farmers or even livestock. Potato farmer is a different thing. For vegetable farmer is a different thing. So the translation side, you also need to then translate this to advisory. And then this has to be transferred to the end users who are either the farmers or different actors in the system. Across this value chain, what we've been seeing is a number of challenges. On the generate side, the key challenge we see there is around the infrastructure is also dominated by the public sector with very little space or allowance for the private sector to thrive there. And like in the dimension, we really need the private sector to be part of the system for us to get lasting solutions. In the translate side is also the same thing, and the translation is very generic. People don't give forecast or prediction or an advisory that is specific to those locations. So farmers can't really use that information. Then transfer is very disjointed. There are a lot of multiple platforms that disseminate information across. And then the users, of course, is not segmented. This value chain, the way for it to be sustainable, what we see is that in terms of services, it needs to flow from generation to use. But in terms of the money to fund the system, it has to flow from the users back to the generation side across those chains. But that is not currently happening. The only people who pay for climate information is the aviation sector, and that's because it's regulated and required that they have to make that payment. So one big challenge, I'm afraid, also indeed, is that if you look at this chart, it doesn't say good for Nigeria. Around the data, ability to collect data across Africa. The charts on the right, you see Africa is there, also Nigeria is there. Nigeria even lags behind the African average. We don't have enough weather stations to collect the right data, which can then make the right information. And in this age of AI, this new revolution of AI, this also is a big problem because models will be trained on data that does not represent our own data, and then this also has issues. We looked at a few analyses on basic numbers as to if we want to expand our coverage and also modernize the existing weather stations, we will need in all of this around $500 million. And that we don't even have a radar station operational in the country, which we need at least 6 of them. We also don't have enough hydrological stations to measure rain gauges, to measure the flow of the river so that we can make these correct predictions. Yeah, so on the final slide, not the final slide, but on another slide that we find that there is a key challenge is on the use side. Many of the studies that we've checked have really focused on the willingness of farmers to pay for climate information services. And I think also in general, when you look at many agricultural data, what they always ask the farmer is, how willing are you to pay for these different technologies? But what we decided to do is to add another component, which is the ability to actually pay for climate information. With that in mind, we have these metrics and where you can segregate farmers or end users into different buckets. At the anchor side, what we position there, we call them the anchor, is because these are the very micro farmers, the subsistence farmers who really can't afford to pay for climate information services. But they are, for climate justice, they are the ones who suffer the most from issues of climate change, but they have very little impact in the whole damage that has been done to the environment. So, but then the other sectors, the other segments are people who can pay if structured correctly. For example, on the growth side, yes, these are also, they have low ability, but these are more commercial farmers, commercial smallholder farmers who are either block farmers or in-growers, out-growers, different model, or have cooperatives that can, climate services can be bundled within the services that they receive, and they indirectly pay for these services. Then on the bottom side, we have many on that side is the financial institutions like the banks who lend to actors in the system, but then they don't see a reason or a need for the climate information services because they don't consider it what the system is offering now, something that they can pay for. But if you provide a great value for them, you can easily unlock value from that segment. Of course, on the upper side are those who have, the rich side is people who have high ability and high willingness. And these are mainly commercial farms, large-scale farm insurance companies who, it's their job to really understand what the weather is doing for them to grow their businesses. And many of them we've seen have invested in building out their own capability in-house, but because these are siloed, as a country and as a system, we need to bring that into a national framework that will help us make the right forecast for the whole country. Yeah, so here we just make some proposal. Among the so many challenges across the system, we focus more on if we can solve the issue of data collection, then that's a strong winning point. And what we are proposing is to develop a model similar to the Nigerian interbank settlement system, which is co-owned by all the actors, the government and the private sector. They combine to own it. They are, of course, it's run independently of the government, and then they are able to generate data and sell this data to those who can afford it in the way that, in the format that is needed. And also, this also serves the public side of things. Like I mentioned, those are the anchor, the bottom of the pyramid. We still need free services given to them in terms of climate information. They are able to benefit from the investment in the data generation and also improving the system across. Yeah, so we did a bit of some numbers around potential value that can be generated from the system if it's functioning, and easily we think we can get close to $11 million annually from this system if you can all work together to really build the system. My final slide now is just a shout-out slide to my colleagues at the African Food Changemakers Conference, African Food Changemakers, who have been working on building resilience against climate and environmental shocks. They've done a number of, this project has really helped to build agri-SMEs, over 3,000 of them, to really understand the risk that climate change poses to their businesses and how to impact that. And they've achieved a lot of successes. Over 80% of those agribusinesses, some of them who are in the exhibition stands, have been able to apply actual climate smart agricultural practices for themselves and also for their farmers. And then this has led to increase in profitability, some of them as high as 30%. So I think this is basically my presentation. I hope you're convinced, and we're hoping to work together with especially the government actors looking for private investors. We want to pilot some of these innovations that we've discovered, and then together we think we can build legacy in this value chain. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Please, another round of applause for Mr. Chinedu. Thank you for that insightful presentation. And while Mr. Chinedu was speaking, we had the entrance of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Agribusiness and Productivity Enhancement. Distinguished guests, please can we put our hands together as we recognize the presence of Dr. Kingsley Uzoma. Thank you. If you listen to all the conversation from the executive reflection and the keynote session, something has been re-emphasized over and over again, and it's the importance of partnership, knowing that we cannot work in silos, but we need to put together effort to be able to design for legacy. And we want to just quickly acknowledge our partners who put together resources to support us to have this 2025 conference. We want to say special thank you to MasterCard Foundation. Please all put our hands together for them. Also, the German Development Corporation, a round of applause for them. Also, HEFA International. Please don't, let's not get tired of clapping. Kia International. We also want to appreciate Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition and also the National Agricultural Development Fund. Please, a round of applause for them. Okay. We know that if we're talking about legacy, designing for legacy, we cannot take away the importance of youth empowerment and also empowering our youths in designing for legacy, because definitely the youths are already the future. You know, while growing up, they'll say, we are the leaders of tomorrow. Our youths are not leaders of tomorrow. They are already leading today. And if we would design for legacy, that means we need to incorporate our youth, we need to empower them, we need to spotlight them. So the next panel session is that session that would spotlight some incredible change makers, agripreneurs, innovators, and leaders in the agricultural sector who are making remarkable impact. So we're going to have the change maker spotlight, and to moderate that session is the partner at Sahel Consulting. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together to make welcome Aisha Hadeja. Let's put our hands together for her, please. She would call up her panelists, and as she does that, please let's also encourage her and also encourage the change makers as they come forward. One more time, let's put our hands together for Aisha.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. I would like to start with a question to all of us here. Please raise your hand if growing up you heard a variation of these words. You need to study hard so that you can get a good job. Lots of hands. Now raise your hand if you have heard you need to work hard in school so that you can create good jobs. I see some hands. Okay, mostly younger faces, but this gives me joy and hope and buttresses the fact that the future of our food and nutrition system is really in the hands of our young people. And the onus is on us to deliver to them a system that is not only resilient enough to continue employing and feeding the growing population, but also agile enough to tackle emerging challenges. I would like to call my panel. First, we have Tajuddin Yahya, the CEO of Extension Africa. Extension Africa is a dynamic platform that is dedicated to connecting rural farmers to information, technology, and innovation. And they have reached hundreds and thousands of farmers and are recognized by Ayute Africa Next Gen. Round of applause. Ayute, agriculture, youth, and technology. Next, I have Ajoke Khalifat Amusat, the CEO of the Grocery Lady Agromers Services. Now, Ajoke's brand is bringing together smallholder farmers and ethical consumers in a way that is creating an ethical and transparent system. And she's doing so with storytelling that celebrates our rich agrarian culture. Ajoke is also recognized by the African Food Change Makers as a leading African woman in food. Show some love. Ajoke, if you are in here, please make your way forward. And finally, on my panel, I have Bamanga Adamu, the MD of Gengele Farms Limited. Now, he is an accountant turned farmer, or should I say born farmer. He retired the Director of Finance, Mayobelwa LGA, in Adamawa State. He's a pastoralist and a champion of the Advancing Local Dairy Development Program in Nigeria. Amazing to have you here. I am missing Ajoke, but we'll find her.
Thank you.
There you are. Gentlemen and lady, your questions today did not actually come from us. In recognition of the role that young people play in this sector, we went out and we asked them, what questions do you have for entrepreneurs that are doing amazingly well in the sector? And they delivered. We would have loved to have them here with us, but unfortunately it's a school night, school day, and God bless our educators that refuse to allow our young people to miss critical classes. So we have the next best thing, which is on tape. So we would listen to our young people's questions, and I will field them to you as necessary. Please roll. Technical challenges, no worries. Let me know if you need me to. All right. I will begin, and then once the video is on roll, we'll continue. Joke, let me start from you. Can you take us back to the beginning? The grocery lady. What was it that sparked that for you? What started the journey?
Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry for coming late. So my name is Ajoke Hamzat, and I am an aggregator. I started the grocery lady in 2018. When I came to Jos for NYSC. And if you all know the story of Jos, you know that the story about Jos is the story of the Jos crisis. Like, when you hear of Jos, all you know is just the Jos crisis. So when I moved to Jos, I was very scared. I was terrified. As I'm talking, I'm remembering that moment when I moved to Jos. When I moved to Jos, I was terrified. I was scared of, I think the story was so strong in the media that my fear of Jos was so strong that I wanted to redeploy. But then I got to Jos, and I don't know if anyone here had their camp in Jos, NYSC camp, Mangu camp. The weather is very cold. The sky, I can still remember how the sky was so blue. And I was like, is this the Jos? So at that time, I was already planning to redeploy because I was scared for my life. But then when I got to Jos, I realized that it's not as it seems. And my first encounter was coming across strawberries in traffic in Jos, Plateau State. Now, if you lived in Lagos, you would know that a fruit like strawberries, you could only find them in stores like delis, stores that import fruit into Nigeria. And here I was in traffic in Jos, seeing strawberries for the first time. And then I called the lady. I said, oh, can I have the strawberries? How much? She said, 500 naira for a pack. And I asked her again. I said, are you sure? She said, yes, 500 naira for a pack. I said, okay, give me 3 packs. Because to me, it didn't feel real. So I asked for the 3 packs, and I took the strawberries. And so I went back to, you know how NYC is with all your copper friends. I said, everyone, would you believe that these strawberries, I got them for 1,000? By the way, I priced everything, all 3 packs to 1,000 naira, because I could not just believe that strawberries was growing in Jos, and I just didn't know. Anyway, so I told my friends that, would you believe that this is 1,000 naira, and they all did not believe. So we said, you know what? Let's find the farmers. Let's find the people. So we went to the farmers market, because in Jos, every Tuesday, there's a farmers market where all the farmers from different parts of Plateau State, they all come together to sell their produce. And when I got to the farmers market, it was very quiet. No one was buying these fruits. There was strawberries. I can still remember there was cherries. So all these imported fruits, they were all there, but there was no one buying it. So I took a picture, and I posted it on Twitter. And let me give you an idea of my Twitter page. I am someone that I don't tweet. My Twitter was just to, retweet and laugh. But I posted this, and it went viral. And I had people retweeting. I had people messaging me, replying. That post went viral that I could not even use my phone. And everyone was just surprised as I was. Strawberries grow in Nigeria. I can't believe this. I didn't know this. How can we get this? And that's how my business started, right? Just from one post. And before I knew it, I started shipping strawberries to Lagos, to Abuja, and I think the awareness I created allowed other people to also come to Jos and start the business also, because a market that was sad and quiet started bubbling and more people were buying from the farmers. And since 2018, when we started, we've really, really grown, because we were not only selling to consumers, we did not only sell to consumers, we started selling to restaurants. And these restaurants found us from our posts, because what I was doing then was I would take pictures, I would post it on Twitter. Then from Twitter, someone suggested, oh, come to Instagram. Instagram is a bigger space for you. And so I would take these pictures, I would start posting them on Instagram. And I wasn't only posting pictures, I was also posting behind the scenes. Like, oh, I'm on my way to the farm. This is the farm, we're picking strawberries. These are the women. So the strawberries, they are not harvested by machines, they are harvested by women. Right now, the women are about, depending on the farms, 100, 200 women. Every year, they know what to do. Strawberry season is from November to April in Nigeria. After April, they rest for like 2 months, and then they start planting, preparing for the next season from November to April. So it's a cycle, and all these women, they all know what to do. They know that this is our job.
That's amazing, Ajoke. I see. For me, what I heard is that from a place of fear, you didn't know what was going to happen to you in Jos. And then, like play, as they say. It started with a tweet. So this is what we're talking about. Young people are using technology and are solving problems that they are seeing on the ground. I love it. Tajuddin, Extension Africa. How did this start? Did you always know from school that I'm going to get into extension?
No. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Tajuddin Yahya, CEO of Extension Africa. To be honest, I wanted to be a petroleum engineer. Yeah. It's almost certain, you know, when growing up, that you're either a medical doctor, a lawyer, engineer, and, you know, our parents kind of have pride in those words and those courses. And I think the first backlash I had was from my dad. And when I applied for petroleum engineering in ATB Bauchi, I got animal science. And that was like a no-brainer for him. He kept saying, you know, I should go back and sit for JAMB again. So, but one thing I actually wanted to do was to do something that makes sense. That's one thing I've ever wanted to do in life. And I prayed to God then to give me something that would actually add value to some other person. So starting out without an idea of what to do, after my first degree in animal science, I went for an MBA in agribusiness management from Bayero University, Kano. I think that was when I got to understand that a lot of times from the schools and from the universities, we've actually not learned to train students of agriculture, to see agriculture as a gold mine, right? I think we train students to see agriculture as a research kind of thing. So you're either studying the skin or the muscles or the blood, this kind of things. Meanwhile, you know, you can actually be a poultry farmer, right? So the first thing I had to do was to say, can we go back to schools and train students on agripreneurship, right? Because I felt that was the missing link. Now, we did that for 2 years, and that experience also led us to an encounter with an extension agent. So this all happened in 2019. There was this elderly man. A client wanted his service, so we linked the client to the extension agent. So after the agent worked for like 5 hours, the client paid the agent 2,000 naira. So the extension agent came back complaining that this is like a whole day and all he's getting is 2,000. So that was actually a good insight. And we got to understand that as much as we've done a lot of work in this space, we've not genuinely built a brand for the extension worker. So we have a lot of these guys on ground that are working under the rain, under the sun, but nobody's actually seeing the value they provide at the last mile. And you know, there's this saying that the closer you are to the farmer, the poorer you get. So automatically, the extension agent is the next poorer person, you know, to the farmer. So that was how we started. And since then, we made it upon ourselves that we have to solve the problem of extension services in Africa. And that night, we called it Extension Africa, right? And that was in 2020. Today, we have over 5,000 agents, right? We're about 1 million farmers in 16 states. Yes. We have operations also in Kenya, right? And we've also been able to change the narrative today that extension is a good profession, is a good career option for young people. We can use technology to make extension agents smarter on ground. And rather than working in silos and having independent extension agents, we can build a central platform that connects everybody to the extension worker.
Absolutely.
And that is what we're doing. Thank you.
Perfect. Extension service delivery is a dignified route of employment, and you are doing something with purpose. So that for me is something that resonates with all the young entrepreneurs that we work with. They don't just want to make money. Yes, that is important. We will make money, but we will do it in a way that has purpose and impact. Mr. Bamanga, to you. So what started the pastoralist journey for you?
I say good afternoon, organizers of this program and the sponsors, as well as the partners who are here present now. I, Alaji Bamanga Adamu, graduated from University of Maiduguri in 1991. Maybe some of you are not born.
Some of them were not born.
Actually, I'm a chartered accountant by profession. To be a farmer comes to me as an accident, but it is not. Because I am from Maibala local government. Everybody in Nigeria knows that Maibala local government is the home of retired Admiral Murtala Inyako, the former governor of Adamawa State, and I belong to that area. So it happens that to be an agriculturalist, by seeing what he's doing in his farm, how he employs people, how he helps people, so that's what make me interested in farming. When I start farming, I have inherited farming in my home because they are all farmers. And from there, I start rearing cattle as a profession. After that, I say, why not join together with farming? Then I did that. So as he came as a governor, I make what I can do. When there is a workshop or seminar inside or outside the country for agriculturalists or those who knows agri, I try to put myself there so that I should participate. I went to 16 countries, including Germany and Filipino. So happy to tell you this. I started this thing and it is progressive. And I have started that personally in my house or in my community. That is Gangle. So I'm drawing the attention of youth by coming together. Let's do this, let's do this. You'll get paid and you'll do something, especially really. That time we are selling milk at the cost of 100 naira per liter. I take the pen.
How much is it now? Sorry to cut you short. You were selling at 100 naira. How much is it now? Milk, how much is it now per liter?
Per liter is 100 naira per liter.
Then? Now?
Now is 500 naira. I use my mobility to carry the milk from Gangle to Yola. There is one house they call Sare Kosam. That is home of milk. So they are using it in many ways. So that's how I encourage youth from my area, as well as the old men. We generate more revenue. And we get assistance with the coming of Sahel and Adil, get out the Sebore farm. Now they have easy things for us. Instead of going to Yola, Sare Kosam, now we are selling our product in Sebore farm at the cost of 500 naira per liter.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. So the thread I am hearing here is that whether agriculture and agribusiness happens to you by birth or by accident or because of fear, there are opportunities abound in it.
Good day. My name is Moses Michel Yagaskia, a 500-level student of social science in Ahmadu Bello University, and also a young agri-entrepreneur. Reflecting on your career journey, entrepreneurship can be a very challenging journey for young people, especially people coming out from the university. So reflecting on your journey, what advice will you give your younger self on how, regarding seeking mentorship and the resilience needed to push through early career failures? Secondly, the world is evolving, new technology coming in every day, the world is becoming digitalized. So from your specific role in the value chain, what digital skills or AI skill does one or a young entrepreneur need to learn in the next 3 years to remain competitive and still offer value in the agri space?
Hi, my name is Jessica from University of Nigeria.
We
and
can
I've been
stop now.
inspired
Thank
over
you.
time by some of
Ajoke?
Hi, everyone. I would like to answer this question because I was a graduate once and I was very confused. So I've gone from being a graduate, serving, in Plateau State as, as a fresh graduate, building the grocery lady, to now, we supply both restaurants, consumers, we create access to quality produce for them. We also process jams. So one of the things I didn't mention when I was giving my introduction is that there was so much produce going to waste when we came in that I realized that we could not sell everything fresh. Because by the time we harvested, they were so overripe that we could not ship them. So what we were doing, or what we started doing, is we started processing this fresh produce into jams and marmalades. So we were turning overripe produce, fresh produce, into jams and marmalade and, giving them value. So what I would say to answer his question is, as a fresh graduate, one of the things you should think about, doing or skills to acquire is data literacy. So right now, there's no access to data. So gathering data, collating them, and also using them, we don't have access to data in Nigeria. I can tell you right now that a lot of people do not know that we grow rambutans in Nigeria. We grow dates in Jigawa State, in Maiduguri State. So when I started, I didn't have access to all this information. And I had to be traveling all around Nigeria. I traveled to Kenya. I traveled to so many countries just to gather data and share them with our farmers. Another thing that we face, and our farmers face, is also access to medication and education. So if a farmer is dealing with pest infestation, what do? There's nothing for them. So we started connecting our farmers to farmers in other countries and teaching them. So what I would tell anyone that is starting now that wants to come into agriculture is to learn data literacy, how to collect data, information, and put them on a platform where everyone can access it. What are the fruits growing in Nigeria? Where can I find them? How do I treat this crop? So let's just say, for example now, if he has maybe some of his livestock are sick, where can he find the information to treat them? So these are not readily available. So for anyone coming in, I would tell them to learn the skill to gather data, put them together. And what's the first question he asked, please?
So two. One is on mentorship and the other is on digital skills. But I think you have handled it very well. And I love what you said. I would like to buttress this fact that Ajoke has found out that strawberries and oranges are rotting in Jos. Meanwhile, we in Abuja are importing jam.
And so
doesn't make sense.
I think on mentorship, so a lot of people look for mentorship, but what value are you also bringing? So for me, on mentorship, I had the help of people along the way, but I also provided value in return. So when people come to me, Ajoke, how can I help you? I don't just tell them I want money. I tell them, can you create access for me? So for example, how do we ship our produce from Jos to you in Lagos, in Abuja? We use coal trucks, and we also use cargo planes, right? And so I asked, do you have a coal truck that I can rent? So when it comes to mentorship, look for people in your industry, learn from them. It's not everything that demands money or profit. You want to learn, you need the knowledge, because it's that knowledge you use to implement and get the job done. So not everything is about getting money and getting funding, you need the knowledge, you need the access, you need the information. So that's what I would advise.
Okay, which then knowledge, access, and information flows directly into Aju. Same question to you.
So I'll start with the first one because that connects with me. I think as a young person, the future is uncertain, definitely. The biggest thing you can do for yourself is to be genuine about yourself. I mean, you have to be intentional. One thing that has helped me, to be honest, is actually think long-term and make long-term decisions. Now, very early in my career, I had the option to teach, which is almost the only option available to graduates, teach in primary school or secondary school. But I decided to go for a tailoring class because I felt with tailoring, I can actually acquire a skill that can help me survive. So I think the biggest thing you need to do as an early graduate is learn to survive. Nigeria, you don't get piecemeal. You have to find your way, hustle your way, right? Get what you want and fight for what you want, basically. I think once you do that, it helps you to think of yourself as a different person, as a product that you're selling to a market. Now, the second thing I would say that has helped also is that, learn to connect the dots in your life. I think I did that very early. I mean, there's a reason why you have your parents, why you went to the school you went to, why you studied the courses you studied. Sometimes all we just need to do in life is to connect those dots. And we come up with a product that defines who we become. So I think that the best thing we can do for ourselves is to learn who we are by connecting our dots. That actually helps to shape our identity. And I think the last thing I would also want to mention is, I saw this quote somewhere that has helped me. 3 things that I did, grow your mind, push yourself, take the lead. These are the 3 mantras I work with. The first thing you have to do is grow your mind. Do not rely on certificates. I think the best thing I did for myself was to drop my certificate somewhere and just hustle, right? When you grow your mind, you think beyond your certificates. I know we used to do these things when we were in school to say, after I graduate, even signboards I won't read, right? But you have to read. You have to learn to become who you need to be. The second thing is, push yourself. We have a lot of job opportunities, but we don't have the right candidates for them. Because most times we think having a certificate qualifies you for a job, but it doesn't. So you have to push yourself to become the person you need to be. And I think lastly is you have to be the lead. Do not settle to exist, settle to win. If you play to win, you imagine yourself as a different person, but if you play to exist, you become just another graduate. Thank you.
Thank you, and I love what you said regarding reinventing yourself, but then still being very authentic and making yourself into a product. And with a product, the focus is not on you, it's on the other person. What need can I solve with this product? Mr. Bamanga, back to you. In terms of mentorship, what insights do you have for this young person?
I may say about mentorship area. First and foremost, you must have confidence in yourself first. If you don't have confidence, you'll be just NFA, no future ambition. Don't see that you are too young, you have so many years to come. Plan when you are 18. If you did not finish your degree in 18 years, you can finish in 21 years. I obtained my first degree when I was 19 years. So I'm proud of that. The most youngest graduate ever met in University of Maiduguri in Department of Accounting. The HOD is Olo Kure. Maybe some of you are hearing him, but they don't know him. He was saying that he will hold me, however, he will hold me, I cannot graduate because I'm too young by then. I was the youngest accountant. So, but I have confidence. I take it a challenge that I will challenge Olo Kure. Inshallah, I will pass without him knowing that I have passed. When he realized